Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. We got Harrison with us tonight. How we doing, bud?
Good. How we doing, Nick?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Sean, hopefully, will be back. He's stuck in Rome. I think he said Delta canceled their flight, so Sean is stuck in Italy. So hopefully he'll join us next week.
Yeah, let's all feel so bad for Sean being stuck in Italy for one more day. Although I said earlier, people are going to start talking. You know, we go on this road trip, we come back, he misses 2 shows in a row. It's making us look bad, Nick. Right. Like we scared Sean away.
You know what? I kind of don't blame him. I mean, we're two pretty scary dudes.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, totally get it. But yeah, he'll most likely be back next week. But yeah, before we get going, make sure you follow, like, subscribe on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And we started something new. We started putting out reels this week. So keep your eyes out for those. You can comment, like, share, get our names out there. That would be greatly appreciated. And so far, your support through this all, like just a couple guys sitting around talking baseball every week. It's been a blast. So thanks for your ongoing support.
Who would have thought our podcast would have survived a lockout, and here we are still going.
Yeah. The stupidest thing to do was like, hey, you want to start a baseball podcast? Yeah, but we should probably wait until baseball starts. Nah, let's fire it up next week.
And the funny part is, I was telling my wife this when I got back from the trip. You know, I remember you put the Facebook post out there like, hey, who wants to start a baseball post or a baseball podcast? And I'm looking at it going, that'd be kind of cool. And I kind of scrolled past it. I'm like, nah, I'm sure Nick's, going to find somebody else. And I'm like, you know what? That'd be a hell of a lot of fun. I'm just going to say, hey, I'll do it. And here we are.
Dude, I know, man. It's been so fun. I can't believe we're on year 2 already. Like, that's the crazy part of it. But all right, we got a lot of news to cover this week.
Yeah, we do.
So we missed, we took Memorial Day off yesterday. Hope you guys all had a great and safe holiday. But on to the news. So leading off, if you have not seen this clip yet, you're practically living under a rock. But Liam Hendriks made his debut after coming back and kicking cancer's ass, and he got the absolute ovation that he deserved.
Yep.
He comes flying out of the bullpen. The place is going nuts. The batter on the Twins stepped back, stayed out of the circle, didn't even and just gave Hendriks the moment. And it was just, instant chills. It was unreal. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was an amazing moment. And a couple innings before, when he had actually gone out to the bullpen, the fans in the outfield were going nuts, and they realized it was him.
Yeah.
And then when he got up to warm up, they were going nuts when they announced he was warming up. And then they really lost it when he came out in the field. And I will say, hats off to the batter for stepping out of the box, but more importantly, hats off to the umpires for letting this just happen as it should. This is where MLB is usually so good at ruining the moment. And they didn't. They let it play out. There was no time. I think the umpire kind of took a stroll, cleaned off home plate. He wasted as much time as he could to give Hendriks the moment.
You see some of the base umps actually clapping as he's coming in. It was bigger than baseball in that moment.
Totally.
And
then he throws.
I got chills just talking.
Oh yeah, no, me too. The moment was wild. It's a moment that everybody wishes they could experience. That kind of love and affection for a player is probably unlike anything we've ever experienced. And then to see him throw a 96-mile-per-hour heater down the middle for strike one was nice, because it was clearly him announcing I'm back, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm back and I'm good.
And hopefully that's a spark for that White Sox team, who's played incredibly uninspiring baseball all season.
And they continue to. They have been for so long. I hope you're right. I hope they do light a spark, because still the AL Central is wide open, which is crazy.
If they waste his return, it would be criminal.
Yeah, I agree. Spencer Strider, first pitcher to 100 Ks this year. This dude is on one. 100 Ks in. He's got 7 decisions. I don't know how many starts. I don't know if he's gotten a decision in every start.
No, he hasn't. He's actually
kind of 11. So he's 11 games started. Yep. He's 5-2.
He's had some tough luck.
106 strikeouts in 3 years. Really only 2. He's got 308 Ks.
Yeah, he's basically pitched 197 and 2/3 career innings, and he's got 308 Ks. It's not even right. What's even scary is he's only faced 792 batters in his career. He strikes out like more than 40% of the batters he faces.
That's like reliever numbers.
It is.
You know
Those
what
are
I mean?
numbers.
And he's must-watch TV every time that kid steps on the mound too. He's
so fun to
insane.
watch. There's not a single pitch in his arsenal I think anybody has any chance of hitting.
No.
It's just not right. And he dots everything. Like I don't think I've seen the guy leave a ball over the plate.
No.
I mean,
absolutely
just
not.
Nasty. Everything he throws moves. It's hard. I don't know how anybody manages any hits against him. And he's got that wicked awesome mustache.
Right? Well, that's probably why he's got all the Ks. I mean, the mustache does directly correlate to your performance on the field.
Agree.
It's
and then did you see the picture of him going around a couple weeks ago showing him like on the mound showing his legs?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They're like the size of my waist, and that's
holy
big.
I mean, I knew the guy had big legs. But they got this picture of him like it was straight on from home plate. His knees are almost together. He was like bending down to get something, and it was front on, and his quads are unreal.
Yeah,
unreal.
I mean, a lot of those guys, like even when we were in Baltimore a few weekends ago, and we saw Oviedo, like his thighs were seriously like this too, and we're like, dude, man, like no wonder these guys are throwing high 90s off the mound with that low body drive.
Oviedo, that guy cast a shadow over the whole section we were in. I mean, he looked like he should have been playing not for the friggin' not in baseball. He should have been a football player. I mean, the Steelers should sign him to play linebacker in the offseason because my God, the dude is huge.
Crazy. Also, we got Tampa Bay Rays are the first team to reach 100 home runs. May 27th. I say the date because it's important because last year they didn't reach 100 home runs until August 12th. This team, I mean, obviously they have slowed down a little bit, but they are still so complete. 1 through 9, every hitter's a tough out. Shane McClanahan goes out and just absolutely dominates on the mound. Everybody that goes and pitches for them always puts the Rays in a position to win. Like they never pitch themselves out of a game, but the Rays are in every game, whether they're down by 5 in the 8th, like somehow they find a way to come back, take the lead and win the ball games. Like it's been absolutely crazy. And we thought they were going to fizzle out and they really haven't fizzled.
No,
yet.
I mean, they hit a stretch. They played 500 for a couple of weeks. I think they lost a game. I mean, it's, and you look at the top 5 teams for home runs in the league. You have the Rays at 101, Braves at 90, Dodgers at 90, Yankees at 84, Giants at 76. Like there's a pretty good spacing there. And as a team, they're hitting 270.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's unheard of nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, you got
what was it?
You got the Rangers at 272, the Rays at 270, Blue Jays at 267. And usually those teams hit for a lot of power, don't hit for a lot of average.
I mean, what was it last year? The stat I said it was like 16 out of the 30 major league teams were hitting under 240.
Oh yeah, it was horrendous.
Right, as a team. I mean, it's crazy to see them all up there like that now. But
yeah, it's wild. I mean, that Rays team is good everywhere. And we thought they'd be like the 3rd place finisher in the East and grab a wild card spot, but holy cow.
I don't see them losing that top spot right now with the way they're going.
No, because who's gonna take it from them?
I mean, if they stay healthy, I don't think anybody can. I mean, the Yankees can get hot. We've always seen the Yankees get hot, but the Rays have been like this for 2 months. I think we're getting to the point of the season where, like, these aren't flukes anymore, right? The Pirates are still there. The Arizona Diamondbacks are still there. Like these aren't fluky teams, right? I mean, yes, there's still a ton of baseball left,
but you're about a third of the way through the season, so you're far enough in to get a reading on who's real and who's not.
Right, and you can see the brand of baseball they're playing. The eyeball test says that these teams are where they should be at the moment, and there's not a lot of shuffling in the standings the last few weeks. Like we're getting to that point where like, only one or two teams are switching standings and
Yeah.
stuff.
And
I mean, the Cardinals fell down again.
I was going to say your
I mean,
Cardinals fell down, and really in the East, it's been really the Yankees, Boston, and Toronto just like flip flopping each other.
Yep. But yeah, I just thought that stat was crazy that it took them until August 12th last year to get to 100 home runs.
Yeah.
And this year they reached it on May 27th.
Yeah. And what's scary is that the Rays still have that plus 119 run differential, but they're now second best behind Texas at 128.
Let's get to them right now. That's a great segue, Harrison. So Texas Rangers right now have the number 1 ranked pitching staff in the league.
Yep.
Missing from this staff, Jacob deGrom.
Yep.
I mean, surprise, surprise. No, not a surprise.
You knew he'd miss time.
But Nathan Eovaldi, like this guy goes out and throws a 9-inning shutout every time he goes out on the mound.
Yep.
The dude's ERA the last like 9 starts is under 1, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And
it's unreal.
The Rangers began to really separate when Eovaldi clicked. Because deGrom went down, it was like, oh boy, like this is going to be trouble. And Eovaldi had a couple good starts. You're like, oh good, there's hope. But Evaldi's really carried the torch in deGrom's absence. And in typical deGrom fashion, he's going to be out for a couple weeks. They've added a couple weeks to it. You know, it's who knows when he's actually coming back. But
it says Evaldi's got a 2.42.
Yeah, only because he had like his first 3 starts of the season weren't good, and he's been ridiculous since.
Yeah. So he got the win at Detroit May 29th, 5 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, 4 Ks. At Pittsburgh, 9 innings, 1 earned run, 5 Ks, 7 innings, 8 2/3, 8. The guy just goes out and throws 8 innings. You know, it's crazy.
Yep. It is. And what's amazing is the Rangers really struggled out of the gate pitching wise. I mean, they've only got 10 saves and 18 opportunities. They had a lot of late game blunders. But they have absolutely come on strong since. And now have 5 team shutouts.
It's quite impressive. I think they now have the second best record in the majors.
Yep.
They leapfrogged the Orioles by a half game. I think the Rangers
half game
haven't played. Yeah. So the Rangers are for real.
Rangers have won 8 of their last 10. Houston's come right back to life, you know, ripping off quite their own little stretch, and they're still 3 games behind Texas. I mean, Houston's leading every other division in baseball from the looks of it.
Jose Altuve has been missed.
Yeah, big time.
That dude came back and made an immediate impact.
Well, and the biggest thing too is I think the part that often gets overlooked is not only is Altuve important as a player, but when Altuve is in the lineup, everybody else can go back where they belong. You know, you don't have guys hitting up in the order. You know, you guys can go back in the normal slot. They can get back into the typical lineup. Everybody can kind of go back to what they were doing. But Altuve, you know, banging on trash cans aside, Altuve might be one of the most disruptive leadoff guys in baseball because he will, if you just throw him a meatball, he'll hit it deep. He'll also grind out in a bat and take a walk. He'll slap on the opposite field. Like, he does everything at the plate.
Yeah, he had a grand slam today or yesterday. Yeah. I can't remember. It just, dude, like he hasn't missed a beat.
Dangerous.
Like he didn't break a hand in the World Baseball Classic or something.
I mean, he does change that lineup dramatically. Not just him being in it, but everybody else being in the right spot.
It's crazy. And I mean, Houston's got plenty of times to leapfrog.
Yep.
But I feel like Framber Valdez and Christian Javier aren't exactly the pitchers that everybody was expecting them to be this year so far. I know Framber Valdez had that crazy quality start streak last year. Was it 26, 27 or something like that?
Yeah, insane number.
And then everybody was slating. I picked Christian Javier to be the possible Cy Young out of the AL this year. I mean, everyone was really, really high on him. And I don't think he's really I haven't heard much about him, which tells me that he hasn't really had that great of a season. I could be wrong. I don't really follow the Astros that much, to be completely honest.
Well, there wasn't really a reason to. I mean, they were kind of just like toiling away, trying to keep their head above water. And The funny thing is with the Astros is that right now they have the lowest team ERA in the entire league at 3.21.
And I'm sitting here just saying.
Well,
the
no, but
pitching
it's
staff
funny
stinks.
because they've had guys who really haven't pitched great. Then they've had a lot of guys on the right who've really pitched well. Their bullpen's been exceptional.
Always has
yeah,
been.
Good point. It always has been. I mean, that's always been true with them. But they're at 3.21 staff ERA. Starters and bullpen, with a couple of guys who really, to your point, haven't quite gotten into their rhythm yet. Like, that's scary to think.
Which I was just gonna say,
like,
that's absolutely terrible.
They're not even at full stride and the best in the league.
The one dude that I just still can't get over watching hit is Yordan Alvarez.
Oh my goodness,
that dude is an absolute monster.
It is
absolute
pull
monster.
Center. He'll go oppo. Like, it's a clinic. I mean, it's a clinic watching that guy hit, and he never gets fooled. He almost never chases, and he just absolutely commands a strike zone. And if you, God forbid, leave something in the zone he can reach, everything's hit hard. Everything.
He's 24.
Oh yeah,
he's 24 years old, man. Like, my God, it's so impressive to watch him. He's one of my favorite hitters to watch right now. He's just physically a monster, and just like you said, anything within a 4-foot radius of home plate gets turned around for a 500-foot bomb.
Yeah, and what's amazing is right now he's actually hitting below his career average. He's at 284. He's typically about a 300 hitter with 14 home runs and 48 RBIs. Like, he's still mashing. But it's funny for him that 284 is like it's underperformance for him. And the guys, he just keeps getting better.
Crazy. All right, let's move into some of the matchups from last week. I know when we were on last week, we said that this week had a ton of matchups, of good matchups, and some of them didn't disappoint, some of them did. But let's just jump right into it. I just have in my notes the Blue Jays and Rays, that 20-1 beating that Tampa took.
That was rough.
It was rough, but I mean, half of those runs were off position players in the 8th and the 9th. So
it's fair.
It wasn't, it wasn't really the shellacking. The position player struck out Vlad Guerrero, and then the next inning he took him for like a 3-run shot.
Yeah, that was hilarious, and it was deep, like a no doubter.
Yeah. So I mean, in like a game like that, it doesn't even matter, right? Everyone, I heard the announcers talking about, it's like, oh, well, when you get beat like that, it's such a momentum killer. It's like, no, the momentum killers to me is when you lose 3-2 in the last at bat of the game.
Yeah.
Those hurt. When you just go out there and you just absolutely get your face kicked in, those ones are like, okay, whatever, we didn't have it today. Like, I feel, for me personally, I can turn the page easier on those than I can the tough losses in the bottom of the 9th.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that it's tough. It's tough when you get it's tough when you're in a game and lose. It's easy when you've been out of a game for a long time. You're just going through the motions to get it over with.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make it any more fun standing out in the outfield watching just balls go over your head and nothing.
No,
it
still sucks. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the Red Sox West Coast road trip here. They opened up in, I'm drawing a blank, San Diego.
Yep. Took 2 out of 3 from San Diego.
Took 2 out of 3 from San Diego. And then they go into Anaheim. They get
stunk it up, and they were bad.
They were really
and
bad.
We were just talking the week before about the fact they're really kind of on a good 2 out of 3 clip, 3 out of 5, like looking like they were going to make a little bit of noise, and then they kind of laid an egg right after we said it.
Yep, absolutely. And those losses in Anaheim, like, I didn't watch a lot of the games, but what I tuned in, like, they were
not good.
Like they just weren't competitive games from the Red Sox.
We've been seeing, and the Red Sox were back to their old habits of getting down early and fighting like hell to get back in the game, and just again, you can only do that so many times.
Yep. Then the Sox go to Arizona. I watched every pitch, every inning of this series. As you guys know, I've been high on my Arizona Diamondbacks this year. They've been fun to watch. The games were actually close and competitive.
It was a good series.
But it was a great series. But Chris Sale and Garrett Whitlock gave them 2 fantastic starts.
Well, and Whitlock coming back healthy, I think, is a big boost to the Red Sox rotation, because as we talked about last show, Corey Kluber is clearly the weak link. He's going to get pushed to the bullpen. Whitlock's going to take his spot, which I think is a good move. I still don't love Houck as a starter, but I would prefer him over Kluber. But both Whitlock and Houck, when they've got their stuff, they're hard to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pivetta got moved to the bullpen.
That's right. I saw that too. Yeah. Which is funny because really he was, really expected to carry the load there for them, and he's not been good.
Yeah. No. So the Sox take 2 out of 3 out of Arizona. And the Sox bullpen looked fantastic in that series as well. So you have Sale and Whitlock giving you 2 great starts. Chris Sale, the last 3 or 4 starts, has looked like vintage Chris Sale. Barring any fluke injury,
don't let him near a bike.
A bike or the line drive off his finger, dude. That was the stupidest thing. Second start back, dude. Just crazy. But yeah, I was very pessimistic about the Red Sox, maybe at the beginning of May. I'm like, I just don't know. This team doesn't seem to have it.
Yep.
I'm still not quite convinced that they have it.
Well, it's hard to...
I don't know what it is, but I mean, if you're winning 2 out of 3 ball games in most of your series,
you're a 100-win team if you take 2 out of 3.
Exactly.
But I think that so the Red Sox went 4-5 on the West Coast trip. Not great. West Coast trips are always hard. But here's a team that was kind of running along at kind of a take 2 out of 3, take 3 out of 5, and then kind of take that step back. And the hard part is it's a step back over 2 weeks. So now they got to get back up and get going again. But that's been the Red Sox season. It's look good for a little while, fall off, get back up, fall off, get back up, fall off. Like they're just very inconsistent, and it's a lot of it has to do with starting pitching. The Red Sox pitching staff, although the starters have been better, is still 24th in the league. Like it's still not a pitching staff that's going to win you a lot of games. You're going to have to out hit your pitching, which thankfully they can do. Right. But God forbid you run into good pitching on the other side. If you're, this has been the Yankees model for the last 15 years. Like you can't necessarily out hit your pitching forever. You can do it for a while, but you can't do it the whole season.
And that's why the Yankees haven't really won a playoff series. Right. It's because you're not gonna do that to good pitching in the
exactly.
Playoffs. So, speaking of Yankees, the Orioles and Yankees, that was another good series. Orioles scored 8 runs in the 7th to beat the Yankees. I don't know if it was. I think it was game 2.
Yeah, that finish was crazy.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. I mean, the Yankees were in the driver's seat the whole game, and the Orioles
were coasting.
Yep, no thanks. Yep, no thanks.
And then it blew up.
But my boy Cedric Mullins is on the 10-day IL, which in turn they signed Aaron Hicks for outfield depth. I don't really know if that. I know it doesn't move the needle really for the Orioles as much as it's just a patch until Mullins can get back. I think he tweaked a groin or a hamstring or something running out of ground ball.
And I have to imagine that Hicks is they're going to shuffle things around. Hicks is likely going to be the 4th outfielder. He'll probably get little to no playing time if I had to guess. He's just going to be a depth play to be on the bench because he's experienced and can step right in.
Yep, agree.
But
and then randomly on Thursday night, because I like to tune into other random games, was the Rockies and Marlins. I know. I'm just absolutely breaking it down with those two.
Real barn burner.
The Rockies got 4 in the bottom of the 8th to take a 4-1 lead. And then the Marlins get 4 in the top of the 9th with 2 2-run homers. It was by Soler and Cooper. Jorge Soler and Brian De La Cruz for the Marlins. These two in the last 2 weeks have just been absolutely raking.
Yep.
Soler, literally.
There's J-Lo, there's Horler. They've got their own nicknames.
Right. Soler, I think, had 7 home runs in a 10-game stretch at one point.
He did, and every single one of them was 450 feet.
Guy mashes. It's
nothing's
insane.
Cheap with that guy.
No. And then the last thing I have for series or crazy things that happens was yesterday, Marcus Stroman against the Rays went complete game, 1 hit, 8 Ks, 1 walk.
He was so good.
It was filthy. Yeah.
And, that's the reminder of who he can be.
Yes. When Marcus Stroman is on, he's untouchable.
He is. And just the problem is, kind of like a guy like Evaldi. You just don't know how long he's going to be on for and when it will be. But when he's there, he's lights out.
Yep, agree. Did you have any series or games or highlights of the games last week that you wanted to touch on?
I had a couple series. So St. Louis, Cleveland, that was a good one. Cleveland took 2 out of 3. The games were very close. The Cardinals just could not string enough together. But credit to the Guardians, young starters, young bullpen arms, came into a lot of tight spots, worked around men on base late in the game. Really did a good job handling the Cardinals in that series and earned that win. And Cleveland's, I feel like Cleveland's come around. That team is starting to kind of figure it out and put things back together. And I will say Josh Bell's been a pretty big disappointment for them. I was really high on that signing, thinking, bringing in a veteran masher would help them. He's really not done much for them, and he did very little in that series for them too. I don't know what it is, if he's not fitting in, if he's just not clicking, but he's been ineffective for them. So
could be pressing.
It is, but a good series. Nice to see Cleveland. Good, it was good baseball around Cleveland. Cleveland earned that one. And then I'm at the point now where I just can't watch the Padres anymore. So I watched some of the series against the Yankees because I was kind of curious. Okay, what are they going to do? And the third game of that series, they lost like 10-1. And once they got down like 3-0, you could see they quit. Like you could see, Tatis was out in right field talking to fans. Like, these guys don't give a crap about what's going on out there. They think that their talent is just going to show up and they're going to win. I was horrified at the way they played in that series because this is not how Bob Melvin manages. That team is a mess. Those guys don't care. And they think that they're just going to win games with talent, but they continue to go out there and just suck wind. And their pitching's actually been really good. The offense is atrocious. Juan Soto, where'd he go? What happened to Juan Soto?
He had that one bomb in New York, and that was it.
And it was almost like a mistake. It wasn't even a good-looking swing.
It's almost like when, I don't watch a ton of NBA, but when the super teams really started like forming and coming together, like these guys didn't know how to play as a team yet. There wasn't enough basketballs. I feel like as much as baseball is individualized, it is also very team-oriented, and there's just not enough baseballs for these egos right now. Like, ton of talent. I'm not taking anything away from the San Diego Padres.
They're too talented.
It's unreal. I mean, even the guys you don't know of, Trent Grisham, this guy is a monster in center field defensively.
Yep.
The guy tracks everything down. And obviously, mustache, that's why he's nasty. But, I mean, it's just they have not gelled as a team. They have not learned how to be a team yet, I don't think. It's just a lot of individuals kind of thrown together. Yep. And I mean, they're still throwing big egos on the team. They just picked up Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, that's
off the scrap.
That's the last thing you need. Another guy with a big hole in the swing. I mean, I look at a guy like Xander Bogaerts. Xander had that amazing start with 30-something games getting on base. He hasn't hit a home run in 3 weeks. He's driven in 1 run in 2.5 weeks. And he's
when no one's on base for him.
Well, and he's hitting 253. Like he's now hitting 40 points below his career average. He's completely just fallen off. He's been a big black hole in that lineup. Soto's been a big black hole in that lineup. Tatis has been super inconsistent, which you'd kind of expect after the layoff. But there's nobody on that offense that's consistently hitting. Nobody, not a single soul.
It's almost like they've taken on the characteristics of their starting pitching. Their starting pitching could come out and absolutely dominate a team for 9 innings and then come out the next game and give up 9 in the first. Like, the offense is kind of almost like that right now, but it's not feast or fathom. Like, it's all famine.
Totally. And the San Diego Padres are the 10th ranked pitching staff in baseball, and they're the 25th ranked offense. Let that sink in. The Padres are 25th in offense. I'm sorry, 25th just in terms of runs scored.
Well, either way, whatever.
I mean, to me, runs are your offense. 25th.
Yeah.
I mean,
I never would have guessed that low, but that's crazy.
Right. Like you think, it's got to be their pitching. No, their pitching is number 10 in the league. Their offense is 25th. It's putrid. I've never seen so many guys go up there with no approach, take terrible swings, and sit back down. And Juan Soto, if this is who Juan Soto is, he's that big contract's gone. Like, kiss that goodbye, dude. Because you are an average major leaguer now, and he has been for the last 100 games.
He signed an extension.
No,
he?
He's still arbitration eligible for another year. So he's just getting his 1-year deals in arbitration. He's gonna take a big pay cut next year based on how he's playing right now.
For some reason, I thought they extended him.
That's just the 1 year, I believe. We can double check.
Oh, he rejected a 15-year, $440 million offer from the Nationals before he was dealt to the Padres at the deadline. It said agrees to 16-year contract extension with San Diego.
Where are you getting that from?
It's not. That's what it says as soon as I put it into Google, but it's not from a website.
Oh yeah,
so
okay.
It can't be true.
Yeah, so right now he's playing on a 1-year, $23 million contract.
$23 million contract.
Yeah, because he's arbitration eligible, so he got a raise, but he's going to take a pay cut next year.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I was like, I wouldn't think he would want to go to free agency.
Yeah, he's got one more arbitration year, and then he's a free agent
at the end of 2024, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's a weird. Why would that be at the top there? That's weird.
Well, because there were a bunch of rumors they were going to offer him a 16-year contract, and then it never happened. That's why. Or maybe it did happen. He turned it down. I don't know. But either way, this is a guy that spent ever since he got to San Diego, he's been a different player and a significantly worse player. But what I wonder about is and granted, we're at the end of May, but Juan Soto has been a lesser player in San Diego since he got there. Xander Bogaerts got off to a hot start and has been a much lesser player since he got there. Like, is it something in San Diego? Like, what is causing these guys to go there and then fall off? Is it because they spend too much time at the beach because they're in San Diego? Like, what? I don't get it. But that offense is putrid, and they are loaded. That is a borderline all-star team that can't hit.
Borderline all-star, dude. I'd take them in every all-star.
Well, I mean, that's the roster used to make in like Ken Griffey Jr. baseball and N64. Like, it was players like that.
Right. Absolutely. It's like
putrid.
Yeah, it's crazy to watch at this point. Like,
and it's so hard to watch because I don't think any of those guys actually care.
No.
Bunch of guys that got a big bag of money and now don't care.
Yep.
Which is not how Bob Melvin operates. So either it's not as bad as it looks and Bob Melvin has control, or Bob Melvin has lost his fastball and has lost control of that team.
It's a lot of egos to manage. And I'm sure the Tatis situation, dirt bike PEDs, all of that, like, you didn't have that catalyst in your locker room for the first month, right?
True.
And then he came back, and who knows? I mean, I'm not in the clubhouse, obviously. That's why I'm sitting here on my couch talking baseball. But but who knows? You know what I mean? Like, you add another huge ego to that locker room, and that changes things.
It does.
That always
and
does.
You look at the lineup, and the other thing I will say is that I feel like, to a certain extent, Bob Melvin is tinkering, trying to find the fit, because they've run 5 different lineups out over the last 6 games, and he's flip-flopping people all over the place. Tatis leading off, Tatis hitting second, Tatis hitting fifth. Like, he's moving people all over the place. Cronenworth hitting leadoff, then hitting fourth, then hitting third, then hitting fifth. Like, Odor led off a game. I feel like he's trying to tinker and find the right fit. So there's probably some pain in that too, just not having any consistency. But you look at this lineup and all the talent that's in it, and you're telling me you guys can't score more than 4 runs a game? Like, how's that possible?
I mean, they should all be able to fall out of bed and get 5 at least.
Like, just incredibly. And I look at the Padres kind of like the Mets. They went and loaded up on all these guys, spent all this money, and then you look and there's still a bunch of holes, which normally enough good players can cover, but the good players aren't good, and that's causing a problem.
Yeah. But I can also see the flip side of that coin, and if these guys get hot,
oh yeah,
it's going to be a nuclear team. Like, they're going to put up some serious.
I've been saying that for weeks. I'm waiting for them to get hot, because this is the kind of team that can go out and win friggin' 18 out of 20 on you. Because if they do get hot, and they'll go out and score 8-9 runs a game easy. But it's May 30th. Like, what are you waiting for, boys?
Yeah, and like you said, like their games really haven't been ultra competitive.
No, and they're sitting in 4th place in the division, 8 games out of first place, 3.5 behind San Francisco. And they got Colorado 1 game behind them. They could be in the basement here tomorrow.
It's
Like,
crazy.
that's
I
scary.
mean, in the eyeball test for me, like you hit the nail right on the head. Like they're not an exciting team to
No.
watch. Like I said, I've been watching the Diamondbacks. You watch the Pirates. You watch the Rays. Hell, even the Red Sox.
Yep.
Like they're running, they're hitting and run, they're producing runs. You know, like they get a leadoff double from Verdugo, and then he gets moved to third, and then it's a sac fly. The Padres are not doing this stuff. Like
No.
I don't. They're just not producing runs. It's either a 500-foot bomb, or 3 strikes and they're back in the dugout. Like they are just not, like you said, exciting team to watch right now.
And I know Machado's been out, and
Also a big catalyst in
a
that
big
lineup,
catalyst,
for
but
sure.
he wasn't doing anything before he got hurt either. So that's like the hard part is, Machado was hitting 230 with 5 home runs. Like he wasn't really doing much either. So, yes, losing him again, kind of like the Altuve effect, changes that lineup up, and that's probably why Melvin's tinkering. Not having him in the lineup hurts, but he wasn't doing jack before he went out either. So another guy who's significantly underperforming that got a big freaking paycheck, big contract extension. These guys all got paid, and now they don't know how to play anymore.
But just think about the added pressure for the pitcher to put Machado back in that lineup.
Oh, yeah.
Like even though they're not hitting, like this pitcher's like, oh great, I got Soto. Oh, here comes Machado.
Oh yeah, that lineup is so deep.
Oh, I got Machado out. Oh, here comes Bogarts. Like there, you can't take a batter off in that lineup.
No.
But with Machado out, like you said, like now it does lessen the load a little bit, so to speak. But
yeah. So I mean, San Diego, they haven't necessarily been better or worse without Machado in. It's just one more hurdle for them. But this is a team that's 5 games under 500. They've been struggling to stay at 500 all season. They're in danger of falling into 5th place in the West. They were my World Series pick. That team was so loaded. The pitching staff was all returning. The pitching staff's been good. Offense has been atrocious.
They were easily, I would say, 70 to 75% of baseball fans preseason World Series.
They're too good not to be there.
Yeah.
Too good.
You look at that roster next to any other roster, and you're like, yeah, it's them.
Yep.
But you watch them, there's no way.
No.
I think they're out of the playoffs. I think this is too big of a hole for them to come in.
Unless they finally find that hot streak we've been talking about for like a month. If they continue to tread water like this for too much longer, we get into like August, we're still having this conversation. Even getting into July, they're going to be in trouble, like real trouble.
Yeah, agree.
Because they're chasing a lot of teams ahead of them that have been very good.
Yeah. The Diamondbacks are 30-20. The Dodgers are, I think, 4 games ahead of them.
Yep.
And the Dodgers don't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon either. And then you have the Giants that they have to leapfrog as well.
Right. So right now the Padres are behind the. So if the season ended right now, your NL wildcard teams are Arizona, Miami, and San Francisco. Behind them are the Mets, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and then San Diego. Could San Diego jump over Cincinnati? Sure. Philadelphia, probably. Pittsburgh, probably. The Mets, maybe not. San Francisco, maybe not. Miami, probably not. Arizona, probably not. And you're definitely not going to catch the Dodgers.
The Diamondbacks and the Marlins would be in the playoffs. Just think about that.
Right, and the Mets are a game out. Awesome. Another team, tons of payroll, really haven't performed.
Agree. Whew. Any other teams or moments from last week that you want to touch on?
No, that was it for me for last week. There was, I caught a little bit of Washington at Kansas City. I hate to admit it. There were some other games I caught little bits and pieces of, but I did catch a little bit of Pittsburgh at Seattle. Pittsburgh, they're lost. That team is lost.
They're coming back down to
big
earth.
Time.
However, they're still in second place in the.
They are. They've fallen under 500. They've lost 14 of their last 18. Like they are in absolute free fall. And like we said, sign of a good team is that they get out of this. Well, they haven't gotten out of it.
No, and then we're going on 3 weeks to a month now.
So
don't look now. The Reds are in third place.
Yeah, I mean the Reds are only a couple games behind them.
It's crazy.
So, and again, another young team that, you know, they got nothing to lose.
Right. How about upcoming series for this week? I'm looking at the schedule, and there's some. We had all the good matchups last week, and these ones are weird coming up. There's
Yeah.
some weird matchups. Phillies and Mets. I mean, Phillies and Mets is always going to be good. I mean,
Yeah.
although no one knows who this Phillies team is.
No, they don't. I mean, I love Trey Turner's quote the other day. Like, he's like, "I suck. Even my mother's booing me." And he's
Right.
been terrible. He had a great World Baseball Classic. He's been awful for them. He had a good day the other day. That pitching is for Philadelphia has been terrible. The
Yep.
offense has been hit or miss. You know, pardon the pun. You know, Schwarber's looked pretty mediocre. Seager's looked really mediocre. And all those other guys, you know, Bohm and Castellanos, they've all underperformed. Like, that's a team that's either
Yep.
I don't know if it's a World Series hangover, if it's what expectations feel like when you've never had them before. I don't know, but it's not good.
I mean, I watched that entire Diamondbacks and Phillies series at the beginning of this week, and the Diamondbacks had their way with it.
Totally.
And then they lost the game late. Trey Turner actually did hit a home run to tie it in the ninth. And then they lost in extras, which, I mean, extra innings is a freaking coin toss.
Oh, it's so bad now.
I mean, that is what it is. So Diamondbacks lost, but I mean, they win. I think they won 3 out of 4. It was 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. I think it was a 4-game set. But I mean, the Phillies just didn't seem to compete. They're a weird team too to me.
They are, and they were last year too. Though I feel like they were last year. They just got hot at the right time.
Well, they got rid of their manager. Then they played like 800 ball for the rest of the season.
And that same manager's not getting it done with a better roster. So,
nope. I'm looking at matchups for this week, like tomorrow, like Pirates, Giants.
Yeah.
You got Padres,
Marlins. Milwaukee, Toronto could be interesting. Philadelphia is actually at the New York Mets. That'll be interesting. Two teams that are both just struggling to stay in contention.
Yep. Yankees, Mariners.
Yeah, that'll be a good one in Seattle. You know, so now the Yankees get to go out west. You know, Atlanta's going to go to Oakland. You know, Matt Olson gets to go home and see all 3 people.
It's just his entire family will be at the game.
Well, and I love, we talked about it before the show, the Twitter message or the tweet that the Houston Astros put out. You know, 10 runs in front of tens of fans. I mean, it's hilarious, and I continue to hear people, you know, sell the team and the owners destroyed him. Well, yeah, he did, because he wants out. Like, that's what's happening.
Crazy. This weekend, what do we got? Braves and Diamondbacks.
That'll be a good one.
That one's in Arizona. Cardinals, Pirates.
Seattle, Texas. That could be interesting.
Angels, Astros. So those are the 2 AL West matchups that, you know, give the Angels a good test. Because they're still, I mean, they're in 3rd. So them and Astros, they could either overtake the Astros there or fall further back.
Yep.
Yankees, Dodgers.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay comes into Boston for 4 with a doubleheader on Saturday. Yeah, it could be an ugly weekend for the Red Sox.
So, I mean, some weird matchups, but I mean, some that could have really big implications. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Toronto at the Mets, that could, if nothing else, will be entertaining to watch that offense go against those pitchers. You know, because the Mets don't mount much of an offense anymore. And then you know, Cleveland, Minnesota, an interesting central matchup. Like, there's not a, you know, last week we had like all these matchups like jumped off the page how good they were. Yeah. This week we got some good ones and a bunch of just like schedule fillers.
Yeah. It's just so weird to me to see some of these, like even the balanced schedule. We said it all the time. Like, it's just weird to still see like Oakland go to Miami. Like, okay, right. What? Yeah. In what world?
Yeah, like, it's like, you know, Colorado at Kansas City. You're like, what? That's a random matchup. But right. Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is, and I do like the fact that it's given us some variety. Like, we're seeing different teams where, you know, there's been some really weird matchups, some really good ones that you wouldn't have expected to see. But if nothing else, it makes you look at the schedule and go, oh wow, like I've never seen those 2 teams play.
I think MLB absolutely got this correct. This is what we've been calling. We haven't been calling for the balanced schedule since we've had the podcast, but we're like, we've never seen Mike Trout play.
Right.
Like, we're all Boston, East Coast guys. Like, if you're a Mets fan in New York, you never get to see Mike Trout
Nope.
play.
Yeah, what is it? Once every
Like,
3 years?
Yeah, your interleague team
Yeah.
might come, and then who knows? The Mets could have to go play in Anaheim.
Forget it.
So it's once every 6 years. So, like, I think the MLB did this
Yeah.
right to get the teams playing everybody. And if Mike Trout or Shohei doesn't come to your stadium this year, he's damn well coming next
Yep.
year. So I think they did that correctly. If you play in the interleague team at your home, you're away at their stadium next year.
Yep.
I think they absolutely nailed that. You had to do something to branch out to get notoriety to all your stars.
Yes, 100%.
Evenly. And
what I will say, though, is that I do think the balanced schedule is the reason that the AL East is the strongest division in baseball history, because what
1,000%.
it's shown you is the separation between the top tier and everybody else. In the past, the AL East just beat the crap out of each other, so their records stayed down a little bit because they had to fight each other. Now you're seeing them get more games against, in theory, lesser competition. That's why this AL East is so good.
Yeah. I made that point on some post the other day, and I got laughed off. And I was like, this would have happened before. Like, all teams would have been over 500 before if this would happen back in, I don't know, 2018 or like the AL East has always been strong. Okay, maybe not the Orioles.
No.
But there was even some stretches in there that the Orioles were really good.
Well, and the hard part is that who knows how good the Orioles might have been if they could have played anybody else but the friggin' Red Sox, Yankees, and Rays over and over again.
Exactly.
It's like you're getting a good look at how these teams really kind of level out across the entire league versus just in their division, and you're seeing that some of these teams are much better than you thought. But when you've got 19 games against everybody in your division, you spend 19 times 4 other teams. You spend 40% of your season beating the crap out of each other, and then finally get a chance to go play other teams.
But then the other, 45% is just other teams in your league. It's not even teams in the AL or the opposite league. Like, it's just play in the West or play in the Central if you're in the East. So it's really cool that they did that, and I'm glad they did.
And actually, when you think about it, in the AL East, that's 76 games out of 162 in your division. So you were more than 50% of your games inside your division, which makes it really hard to win 100 games when you're facing that level of talent 55% of the time. Brutal.
1,000% agree. All right. We'll move on to our rounding third question of the week, which was, what is the best moment or moments you've seen live at an MLB game or ballpark? How about you start it off, Harrison? What's your favorite moment live?
My favorite moment live was Cedric Mullins' cycle. That was cool. I've been at Fenway for some big games and playoff games, but I've never seen a cycle before, and I've never been in an environment where it was so well received and it was did it at home and all those things. To me, that Cedric Mullins cycle might be the most memorable moment I've had at a baseball stadium.
Yeah, I agree. It's up there for me. It's number 2.
Mm-hmm.
My number 1 is Albert Pujols, 694. I mean, it was crazy. Me and the other 30 people in the Cincinnati stadium stood up and just cheered as loud as we could. That was really cool. So we had some comments here. Randy said he was at Fenway by the opposing bullpen. It was the top of the 9th, and Roberto Hernandez was warming up for the White Sox.
He was nasty.
He hollered in Spanish. Yeah. He said he hollered in Spanish that Mo Vaughn was coming to take him deep, and he looked right at me. First pitch, it happened.
That's perfect.
Pretty amazing. It's pretty great.
That's a good one.
Jim Britt, that's so great. Jim Britt said he saw Schilling on the mound versus the Angels in September of 2004. He said the place was off the chain. Steve Bass said he saw the Braves clinch the NLCS in 95 when they won the World Series a couple weeks later.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that Braves team of the 90s should have won a lot more than it did.
Agree. That was tough. And especially a lot of people watched the Braves growing up because TBS being on basic cable. Like everybody was a Braves fan.
No,
so
I
it
mean,
was
I used to
hard.
watch a ton of the Braves broadcast. I will say their announcers were the most boring guys in baseball. Everything was monotoned. It was also dull and dry, but I still loved to watch their games. Turner Field was like the most basic, had the same outfield wall, same color, perfect distances.
Yeah.
Like everything about the Braves in the 90s was like plain and vanilla.
It wasn't even Turner Field at that point. It was
That's right.
Atlanta
That's right. It
Fulton
was Fulton County Stadium. That's right. That's right.
But yeah, it was that like drab blue
it was,
and like Budweiser signs.
everything was
everywhere
uniform,
before
all the same
showed up.
distances, and it was like everything about that team was boring. Everything about that organization was boring and vanilla, but the team was good.
Yeah.
Even their pitchers, though, like they didn't have flashy pitchers, just guys that won.
Right. Just went out and got the job done every single night. But yeah. Nick Fanning said he went to Fenway during Ortiz's last season and got to watch him get a walk-off in extra innings. So that was
That's
pretty cool. And then Doug saw Brock Holt hit for the cycle versus the Braves, and he said he called a Manny Ramirez home run. So that would be awesome. And then the last one, Billy Chapman, who we've had on the show last year with one of his old, not teammates, but one of his players on his high school team, Grant Levine, who's now with the Hartford Yargoats.
Oh, that's right.
They were on. He said his assistant coach was present for Kirk Gibson's walk-off in the World Series when he was 14.
That would be sick.
He also saw McGuire's 59th and 60th.
Oh, man.
So that's crazy.
Yikes.
But so he's like, I live vicariously through him. So,
hey, I would too.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun one. I mean, everybody's been to like really cool moments live. Like, and every time I go to a ball game, I try to talk to the people next to me. It's like, oh, what's the coolest thing you've seen? And Karen and I, my wife, we went to a game, and the guy next to us was like behind home plate during the Mother's Day Miracle when the Sox scored.
Oh, cool.
What was it, 6 in the bottom of the 9th? And then he was there for the 4 home runs in a row with a JD Drew, Mike Lowell.
Oh, that was
Jason
wild.
Varitek. Yeah. So it was just.
I'm pretty sure the guy that sat next to Sean at National Stadium was there when Babe Ruth hit his first home run.
I'm pretty sure. Dude.
And I'm pretty sure Sean and that guy talked about it for like an inning and a half.
Sean texted us and was like, help me. And then continued to talk his ear off. But,
Yeah, we had this older gentleman sat down in the same section as us, and very nice guy, very knowledgeable about baseball. But then I'm telling the story. You wait. So yes. So this guy and Sean are talking baseball, and the guy reaches into his back pocket and starts to unfold this piece of paper. Nick goes, "What is he doing? What is that paper he's holding in his hand?" I'm like, "Nick, it's a newspaper." Like, the guy brought the sports section so we could actually look up the box scores and the standings, and Nick was like blown away by the fact that somebody still reads the sports section of a newspaper. It was so funny. Sean is texting us like, "Please save me from this guy." And then Nick is texting me, "What is he holding in his hands? What is that paper thing?" I'm like, "My God, you guys are awful. I can't take you anywhere."
Yeah, right. It was so great.
But the guy knew baseball. And he's a season ticket holder, I want to say. So he's usually right down the section that we were in. But my goodness, it was funny.
It was so great. But oh my God. All right. Anyways, we'll throw out a question next week. We'll think of one here after we get off, and then we'll put it out there. So we're gonna start heading home. We got a lot of things, kind of loose ends to wrap up here. We said it last week. Kenley Jansen got his 400 save. This week, Craig Kimbrell gets his 400 save. He got it also in Atlanta.
Yep.
Like Kenley Jansen did. They both played for Atlanta, and they both got their 400 save in May.
So weird.
Of the same year. Like, it's pretty crazy. Baseball.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It really is.
Who do you take? So right now, who do you take to close your games? Jansen or
Jansen? Kimbrell's been really, really inconsistent the last few years. He's still good, but he's been crazy inconsistent.
Yeah. I mean, we've had them both in Boston. Right?
And Kimbrell was good in Boston.
He was good, but even then, like, he was like Jonathan Papelbon.
The roller coaster ride every freaking night.
Yeah, a heart attack closer for
always
1,000%.
But like, I still love like the way he gets down. He's like the chicken wing out, and he's like all hunched
Yeah.
over, ready to go, and like he's got the weirdest motion and weirdest setup.
It's so his curveball is filthy.
It's gross.
I can't even imagine what that looks
No,
like.
could you imagine going
coming
from
in
like
at you.
high 90s to that thing?
No,
I mean, good lord.
I couldn't. But another Braves kind of cool story is Mike Soroka, who you might have heard of before.
Boy,
He
that's
was
a
an
name I forgot
up-and-coming
about.
pitcher. Yeah, he came up a while ago. It's been 1,029 days after tearing his Achilles twice. He tore it twice and finally made his comeback yesterday. He had a great outing. I think he went 3 or 4 innings, had a couple strikeouts, no runs. Looked good. I mean, of course, like another Brave stud. But
Right.
let's just keep loading him in at
But
this
can we
point.
talk about the fact that here's a guy that basically rehabbed for almost 3 years to get back out on the field?
Crazy.
Like, most of us can't stick with any kind of routine or anything like that for more than like 30 days. This dude went almost 3 years rehabbing to get back on the field.
And did it. Imagine that, like that sense of accomplishment.
Oh my God, like,
I can't even imagine.
Unreal, like unimaginable what that must be like.
I mean, it's just like that whole Daniel Bard situation, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had the yips, and he had
Bad.
the yips so bad that he's like, I'm done baseball. I don't want to see
dude
another
walked
baseball. I don't want to. Yeah, he completely walked away. And then he was like coaching for, I think it was the Diamondbacks actually. And he was like throwing in the cage one day, and the players were like, dude, like you still got it. They're like, you should go out and pitch again. And he goes, no way. He's like, I'm not doing it. And he battled back, and now he's like one of the best relievers in the game again right now. I'm like, I mean, stories like that, I love that. It's really cool.
Well, and it reminds me,
I mean, just to have the mental strength to get over.
Totally, it reminds me so much of the rookie, the Jim Morris story. Same idea, a guy that came into the league and didn't quite have it and left and focused on his family and was coaching and then realized he actually still had it, and there he is. But impressive for Soroka to make it all the way back, because a lot of guys at that point would have said, look, it's just not meant to be, and moved on with their life.
Yep, absolutely. So this next guy just got called up by the Angels, the volunteer firefighter, the fireman, Ben Joyce, which we talked about during the lockout a lot when, we only had college baseball to talk about.
Yep.
This dude was throwing 104. Did he reach 105 a couple times?
I'm pretty sure he did, yeah.
But yeah, he gets called up. He hits 102 in his debut, strikes out 2 in his 1 inning. So he is now up in the bigs. So he spent like 0 time in the minors.
Well, I think you look at a guy like that, and like that stuff will play at the major league level, like that level of velocity. I mean, even if your location's not great, like you'll get by, you'll get outs. That's like Joel Zumaya before he hurt his wrist playing Guitar Hero. Like that guy would throw 103 down the middle 3 times in a row and strike you out. Like he didn't have to spot it; he just threw hard.
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he does going forward. But you're right. You throw 102, it doesn't matter where you throw it. Like you got to pretty much guess it's coming.
Yeah, and if you throw anything else, I mean, you're gonna catch these guys by surprise. But and the nice thing with Joyce is that unlike Zumaya, who literally had 1 pitch, it was 103 down the middle. Joyce can he can spot it, he can move it, he can run it. He's gonna be dangerous.
Yep, his secondary stuff's good too.
He's a well-rounded pitcher that also throws 100+.
Yep,
that's not normal.
No. All right, we also have Ethan Salas for the San Diego Padres, makes his low A debut. Why is this important, you ask? He's 16. This kid is 16 years old making his pro debut.
It's crazy.
Tonight. 16 years old, dude. Like, I'm still coming out of second period English class.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I'm literally I'm a sophomore in high school. This dude's playing pro ball as a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, I'm worried about whether or not like I got a booger hanging on my nose that the girls are going to laugh at, and this dude's out there playing low A ball. Like, come on, man.
Are the Padres that hard up for catching?
Yeah, they're hard up for anybody right now that can hit. I mean, the dude took some reps in spring training with the kind of the A squad. He is legit.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like we were talking about it a little bit back and forth before the show on the Facebook thread that I put out. And it's like is he foregoing school to do this, or is school out and he's just playing for the summer? Like, how does this look? I mean, if this is his first night, I would imagine school's out for the year and he's just now playing in the summer. That's how I would I hope to God that's the case. Because, I mean, he should at least get a high school education, because if baseball doesn't work out, what is he doing? I mean, I also don't know his backstory. He's from the Dominican, correct? So we don't know what kind of background, what kind of life he has in the Dominican. Maybe this is his way out. I don't know. But 16 is way too young to be playing pro ball. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you know, like you look at the Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias. He was also 16 years old when he moved into A-ball. And most of these guys, you know, for them getting out of the Dominican, or for some of these guys getting out of Venezuela or Panama, wherever they're coming from, like getting out of there and getting into the States gives them better educational opportunities than they would have had there. So you'll probably find that Salas has some kind of like a tutor with him, and he's probably getting an education while he's up there, or doing it in the off season or something like that. But for many of these guys, they're not getting much of an education where they're coming from, and getting in the States probably helps.
I mean, I hope so. I just don't want it to turn into, like, I know MLS for a while I had like these 14-year-olds playing,
our 12-year-old phenom. Like, it's like, come on, guys. Like,
yeah, I mean,
at least his kids hit puberty, but my Lord, I mean, you know, he's playing with grown men. He's 16 years old in a locker room and on a field with grown men. Like, that's got to be weird.
Yeah, man, yeah, it's legit like rookie of the year.
Totally.
Like, it's pretty much the same thing. It's
I mean, nuts, you know, when you know, are you packing your own lunch, or is somebody making lunch for you? Like, at 16 years old, I don't think I was going to be self-sufficient enough to be doing my own laundry, packing my, you know, making my own meals and all that. Like, I barely do that now.
I don't do that now.
But I mean, it's
crazy.
You know, to think about the fact that he's 16 playing low A ball, like, that's impressive. But he's
1,000%.
But he's 16 in an unfamiliar country playing professional sports. Like, think of all the layers to that. Like, that's got to be unbelievably challenging. And this must be one incredibly tough kid to be able to just like come in out of the Dominican, plunk down in the States, and start playing minor league baseball.
And his signing bonus was astronomical.
$5.6 million. Yeah, the highest they've ever given.
5.6. God dang, yeah. Man. You just gave a 16-year-old $5.6 million. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure there's stipulations he can't touch it till he's 18 or whatever, but yeah, still, that's nuts. Absolutely.
They gave a 16-year-old kid a lot of money, and they're putting a lot of faith in him. And I mean, at the rate he's going, he might be in the big leagues by the time he's 19. He might be another Juan Soto.
I mean, who
knows?
Me. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll keep an eye on him. I'm sure if he's any good, he's going to move up quick, because Padres don't have anything for catching.
No, nothing. Right, I mean, really, look around the league, and other than Adley Rutschman, there's not much in terms of catchers. You know, Alvarez with the Mets, who's been a massive disappointment to this point for them.
Yeah, Tyler Stevenson in Cincinnati.
He's been good.
You could argue.
I mean, there was a stretch there in the late 90s, early 2000s. You had a bunch of catchers. You had all those guys. Yep. You had Veritek and Posada and Kendall. Like, you had all these guys running through.
All the Molinas.
Yeah, the entire Molina family. And then you just kind of had this void of catching talent for the last like 5-10 years. Yeah. Minus a few guys. You know, Gary Sanchez was going to be a big deal. Look at him now. He can't even keep a job.
No. Crazy. All right. We're going to move on to our weekly Aaron Boone bashing here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Sean's not here. Aaron Boone's a terrible manager. He sucks.
And here we go with this. He was suspended 1 game. They said due to conduct towards umps. Now, Aaron Boone was tossed from 3 games in 10 days. It was the whole thing with the Blue Jays where, like, the Blue Jays coaches weren't in the coaching box, and then the Yankees. Yeah. It started with the Yankees coaches not in the box. And the reason is I saw AJ Pierzynski. He was telling us how the pitcher was tipping his pitches. Yep. He was bringing the ball way up by his ear like this when he was coming to the set and already had his grip. So that's when Judge looked to the first base coach, and the first base coach gave him, like, you know, a tip of the hat or whatever. That's how we knew it was coming. And the dude threw like 9 sliders in a row. Whatever. But which is fine. I have no problem with that. You're tipping your pitches. That's your own
If you're
damn
tipping
fault.
pitches, that's on you, man.
But the Blue Jays caught on that the Yankees were getting,
Well, and
the pitches
and-
because they weren't in the
right,
box.
and that the Yankees coach wasn't like a little bit out of the box, like he was way out of the box, like way out of the box, not even close. He couldn't have like jumped and gotten back to the box.
Right. So the next game, or even later that game, the Blue Jays coach was out of the box, and he starts barking at him. The umpire tosses him. Whatever. But I guess Boone accidentally spit on one of the umpires in one of his tirades, which led to the 1-game suspension. But I mean, dude, you've been tossed from 3 games and 10 games. Like, go home for 5.
Right.
Like, take a break, dude. You need a mental break. And I'm sure managing the Yankees right now hasn't been easy for Aaron Boone.
I mean, it's injuries all over the place. Like that team, typical Yankees fashion. You got all these guys you signed. Carlos Rodon. There's still no timetable for his return.
Stanton.
Bader was hurt and then back and then hurt again. Judge was hurt and Judge has been ridiculous since he got back. Stanton who's out. Like they've got over $100 million worth of annual payroll sitting on the IL right now, unable to play.
Crazy. Right.
And that's why the Yankees are where they are. When you're missing 3 of your key guys, kind of hard to be super competitive.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, you got to keep your shit together, dude.
Well, and
that's what it comes down to.
And he's picking what I think are stupid fights. Like, arguing about the whole coaching box thing. Like, you guys are clearly in the wrong. Like, eat your crow and move on. He's arguing some really like ticky-tack balls and strikes. And I'm sure he's going to say he's trying to get his guys all jazzed up, but like, these are professional ball players. Like, watching the manager get the heave-ho doesn't get them all jazzed up to go play. Like, these are professionals. They don't need that kind of motivation. Like, stop arguing over stuff that doesn't matter, Aaron, and focus on trying to win some games.
Yeah. So it says he's got a league high 4 ejections this season. 3 of those come in the last 10 games. He's had 30 managerial ejections since he broke in as manager in 2018. So,
wow,
that's a lot. And that's like Bobby Cox stats right there.
We're just looking that up. Bobby Cox has got a record of 162 ejections in his career.
That's crazy. And he's had 30 since 2018. Bobby Cox was a manager for, God, forever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We've said it all along. He's one of the worst in-game managers out there. My personal opinion. Our personal opinion.
Yeah, he's terrible.
But I mean, dude, you got to keep it together. Like, you're three times in 10 games puts a lot of stress on your other coaching staff, your players. And like at some point, it's like, all right, dude, enough's enough.
Yeah, well, right? And that's the thing. Like at some point, the players are like, "What? Come on, dude! Like seriously, get your shit together." Yeah. So, John McGraw 121, Lear 100, Earl Weaver 96, Tony La Russa 93. Those guys all managed for a long freaking time.
Yeah. Boone's been in the league for what, 3.5? Because you count the pandemic years and a half.
Bobby Cox managed 29 seasons, and he basically got ejected for a total of 1 whole season.
Yeah.
So,
which is awesome.
Which is amazing to think, but
he got paid for 1 year to just sit in the clubhouse and watch baseball.
Drinking a friggin' iced tea and watching the game. Like
back then, probably not. Probably chugging Bud Lights and Miller Lights.
Yeah, chugging Miller Lights, ripping lung darts back there in the clubhouse.
No doubt.
Got a chew in his mouth and having a good old day.
All right. Well, since we're on the topic of Yankees, we will give them a little props here. But Garrett Cole gets strikeout 2000. As much as we crap on this guy for not being a big game,
which he's not.
He's not. Last playoffs he did have a good playoff.
Yeah, he actually was pretty good.
He had a decent playoff run, and I mean 2000 career strikeouts is still a pretty impressive milestone.
I mean, the guy in the regular season, he is probably a top 10, 15 pitcher. Like, you got to give the guy some credit. The playoffs, he just falls apart.
Yeah,
but he gets a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah,
but that Yankees team, man, Rodon still no timetable to return. I mean, their season went off the rails fast.
And multiple setbacks.
Oh yeah,
him, right?
The Yankees are saying right now there is no timetable. Like He's not throwing a baseball right now. He's not doing anything.
So it was the back,
It's his
right?
back.
Didn't
He's
he
got
have,
some
like,
chronic back issue they
problem?
can't seem to relieve. That's
Dang.
a problem. Like, you signed a guy to a $162 million contract, and now he's got some chronic
Yeah.
back problem you can't solve.
God, I wish I could sign my name for 162 million and then just stay at home with a back problem.
That's the thing. Like, he's from what I'm reading today, like, he is apparently beginning to do some rehab type activities. There's no real timetable here on when he comes back, but in the meantime, like, Anthony Rizzo's back out with neck stiffness. Like, it's a revolving door of guys missing time.
Yeah. At some point, I would just get rid of the whole team training staff and start over. I mean, they're obviously not doing something.
Well, and you got
right.
to stop signing guys that are, in the latter part of their career too. Like, get some youth in there.
Doesn't help. Yep. All right, we'll move on to the Pirates here. So Johan Oviedo for the Pirates got an immaculate.
It was impressive too.
So
very impressive inning.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had like 2 balls that were fouled off. The other ones were all like swing and miss, and then the very next inning, there's a ground ball hit to first, right through the first baseman's leg. Second baseman goes over to field it right through his legs, and I go, "Well, the Pirates are back, folks."
Yep, literally, that was the message you sent Sean and I. I was like, "Well, Pirates are back," and you sent us the clip. I'm like, "Oh my lord."
Oh,
that's
my
painful.
God. And that one, it was really painful.
It was like bad Little League baseball.
Oh, I mean, he was camped in front of this roller. The first baseman was, and goes between his legs. Second baseman was a little bit on the move, but still slow enough where he should have been made the play. And whoop,
like, it was like watching the Mookie Wilson ground ball all over again.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think the Mookie Wilson ball was hit 10 times harder than the one to the Pirates, but
and then both guys whiff on it.
Yeah. This sponsorship is one of the best things I have ever heard in a long, long time. This is really cool. Julio Rodriguez for your Seattle Mariners lands a sponsorship with Alaska Airlines, winning 44 flights for fans at home games when the home run is hit in their section. So I think that's really cool. However, it would suck to be the 45th guy. Like, how many people are in that section to begin with? Like, do they just like, how do they determine the 44 closest? They must just determine the seat it lands in and then
spider out. But
the 44.
But in some of those bleacher sections in Seattle are kind of small, especially in left field, where you're all kind of chopped up with the bullpen and the scoreboard. Like, that might be everybody in the section, but that might be one of the most lucrative, valuable giveaways I've seen at a ballpark. Like, to give out that many tickets. I mean, Alaska Airlines must be doing exceptionally well to be able to give out that many free flights.
Or it only goes to Alaska.
Oh yeah, or they go to like 3 places and nobody's going to want the tickets.
Right. There's got to be some stipulations on it. But
crazy.
But even then, I just thought it was really cool.
It is a wicked cool one.
And then another fun story is kind of cool is the Minnesota Twins manager, Rocco Baldelli, announces he's having twins. I mean,
what are the chances?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, literally, the guy signs an extension and then announces he's having twins.
Like, naturally.
And he's been a pretty good manager too, like, and a pretty impressive manager over there.
Yeah, I think the Twins will be there at the end. I mean, again, that AL Central is really not that competitive.
No, the pride of Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Yep, that's right. All right, let's get into the American Family Field in Milwaukee here. So the MLB releases a report saying that Milwaukee has to come up with an astronomical amount of money to maintain the stadium or upgrade the stadium to keep it safe for fans. Or the MLB is going to relocate them.
Yep.
So the cost would be $428 million across 20 years. So they want it to go towards seats, gathering spaces, and concourses. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. I haven't been to Miller Park yet. I've heard people love this
never been
place.
there.
They treat it like football there. Everyone's tailgating before the games because I guess parking lot's like right there. I think it's kind of, I don't know, lack of a better word, rude for the MLB to be like, yo, you either gotta pay $500 million or we're moving you out. I mean, I get that. I don't know what kind of state the stadium's in. I really don't have any place to talk for that.
Not a clue.
But I mean, and it's across 20 years. So I'm sure you could most likely get this done.
Yeah, you're talking $20 million a year for the next 20 years. Gets them the repairs they need.
But just to threaten the I mean, it could also be the media like pushing it out there, oh, you have to relocate. Well, it's still 20 years down the road, buddy. But this is kind of what the MLB was doing to Oakland. And Oakland's like, well, we're not going to renovate the ballpark. And the owner's like, well, then I'm out.
Right.
Or build me a new one. And they're like, well, no. So this potentially could have the same effect in 20 years if they don't pay this. But I think Milwaukee will ultimately spend the money. They love having the Brewers.
Yeah, and the governor,
right? The MLB loves having the Brewers.
Yeah, and the governor announced a few days ago that he's feeling optimistic that the package they put forth will get approval and they'll be able to come in and start making the repairs. But what is interesting though, and you posted this the other day, and I kind of responded with the, with kind of the look at this is kind of what it looks like when you get into a government-owned stadium. So you look at Miller Park or American Family Field, which is a horrendous name, by the way. You look at Chase Field in Arizona. You look at Oakland. You can go back to the old days of Pro Player Stadium in Miami. When you have these state or county-owned ballparks, they always run into these problems where they're owned by the state and the county. The team is the tenant of it. Basically, they rent it and they play there. So the concessions and all that oftentimes just go to the state or the county. What happens though is that these states and counties, because they're government, and not that I'm trying to say government is bad, but government doesn't run a budget. Government doesn't run things like a business does. When you have an asset, whether it's a piece of real estate or a stadium, like you have a planned capital improvement plan. Like you've got to make capital improvements each year. You plan for that. You budget for that. Governments live in 1-year cycles. You collect the tax dollars, you have to spend them all to continue to justify to bring them in. And what ends up happening is that these stadiums get ignored because there's never the money to deal with it. It's never in the plans, never in the budget, because it's always just 1 year out. And what ends up happening is that these teams have to throw a fit like the Marlins did back in the days of Pro Player Stadium, or move like the Oakland Athletics are doing to get away from that problem, because these governments, the governments never have the money to do this work. They never do. It's always spent. It's always gone. They never have it. Then they got to go raise it by referendum, and then that pisses the taxpayers off because they don't want to pay for the ballpark, and which is political suicide. So this is MLB kind of strong-arming Milwaukee to get their act together and figure this out before that place becomes unsafe to watch baseball games. So I get where MLB is coming from. It's, hey guys, you knew this was coming. What the hell? Figure it out. We're not waiting for you guys, because this is the same situation that's played everywhere else. Chase Field in Arizona is in need of the same level of repair. They're actually constructed by the same company. Miller and Chase were actually built and designed by the same company. They have the same problems. So like, again, like you knew this was coming. Why are you not prepared for it? So MLB, yes, it might be an aggressive approach to say, hey, we'll just move the team. But at the same time, MLB's got to do something to raise awareness of the fact that they can't just let nothing happen.
But I mean, at least they're giving them 20-year window.
Right.
It's not like, hey, write this check for me tomorrow, or you're moving to Raleigh. Which,
right. Cool.
Move to Raleigh, please.
But it's true though. Like you think about like if you own a house, even if you own a car, like there are things you've got to do. You've got to repair every year. Like you have to plan for it. Like with a house, you got to plan for at some point in time you're going to need a new set of appliances, a new roof, new windows, new flooring, new siding. Like those things come. They're not there every year, but they have to get done over time. Same thing with the stadium, and people were complaining like in at Chase Field in Arizona during the World Baseball Classic, when it rained, there's sections of that roof that leak like crazy. The roof needs to be repaired. Amazingly, there's no money for that. So they can't use the roof anymore. So like you've got a domed stadium where you can't use the roof anymore because the roof needs to be repaired and there's no money to repair it. Like the whole thing just is insane when you think about it.
Yeah, so they pretty much just use it as a big canopy when it's sunny out.
It's
pretty much the only time they
because
close it.
there's never the money to deal with these problems because the cities and counties never plan for them.
Crazy.
It is crazy. But
Yeah.
so MLB's taking an aggressive approach, probably more than they need to be, but I know where they're coming from because they're fighting this fight in 4 other markets.
Yep. And like I said, like as aggressive as it sounds, it might not actually even be really aggressive. I mean, like you said, it's $20 million a year. Like
I'm sure Milwaukee wastes more money on stupid stuff that each year than the $20 million they need.
Yeah. I mean, cut one of the sausages out of your sausage race and you got that money. So you're fine.
Well, what's going to end up happening is that they're going to raise ticket prices, which is going to piss the fans off. That's how they're going to pay for it. Concessions will go up, ticket prices will go up, and they'll use that as the way to recoup it.
Yep. I mean, they'll always find a way, but
whatever.
Yeah, it was just an interesting news story that came out this week.
It's interesting though to see a ballpark that's really not that old. I mean, when in the grand scheme of things, it's not that old. That already needs that level of repair.
It was built in 90.
Yeah, it's 20, 24, 25 years old, I think.
Because 98 was the tied All-Star game, right? Was it 98 or
98?
99?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 98. 99 was the one at Fenway Park.
No, it's Fenway
where they changed all the rules to avoid that again.
Yep. So it was 98. Yep. They had the tied All-Star game, and Bud Selig was standing there like, well,
what do we do?
Tie? Everyone go home? But, all right.
Well, I heard somebody say, how is it possible that Fenway Park's a bazillion years old and it's still standing just fine? Because it's owned by the Fenway Group. Like, John Henry has to take care of the ballpark or they've got nowhere to play.
Right. And it's probably under the historic landmark also protection as well.
Yeah, there's some of that.
At this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got
that stuff's all shielded from taxes. There's all kinds of shelters and stuff.
I mean, but you walk into that concourse and you're like, dude, where am I? Am I in a subway station?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is this? The concourse is a dump.
Oh, totally.
But
you can smell the urine
when you walk up the stairs. Oh, for sure. All right, let's get on to finally the last thing I have is, our Oakland A's section of the podcast here. So the A's and Las Vegas have reached a stadium deal. They're waiting on city legislation here. The deal is the announcement was for 30,000 seats, which we mentioned last week, on a 35-acre site. So they are going to take down the old Tropicana, and they're going to put the stadium there.
I wish they'd take down the Tropicana sitting in Tampa Bay for the record, but I digress.
The project is going to cost about $1.5 billion. And the A's are only asking, I say only,
right.
are only asking for $400 million to be publicly funded. Yep. So the A's owner is looking like, hey, I'm bringing this team here. I'll pay for 1.1 billion of it. You guys just got to come up with 400.
Which will be the largest investment by an owner in a stadium in sports history.
Yep. Which 400 million is a slow Friday night in Vegas.
Oh, that's the thing. That's crazy.
Let's be honest.
Vegas will make that back in 3 years.
Yeah, easy. But it's waiting for city Nevada legislature now to get approved. But I don't see them turning it down, right? I mean, you're going to bring your third professional franchise in the last 10 years. When did the Vegas Knights were first?
Yep.
Then the Raiders came.
The Knights only been there for what, 5 years, 6 years?
I was gonna say 10 was on the high side.
I want to say the Knights moved there in like 18 or 19. They don't even have been there that old or that long.
No. Yeah.
And they've been really good there.
2017.
Okay. Yeah. So 6 years.
6 years, 7 years.
Yep. And they're going to another Stanley Cup.
Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah, it's just a matter of logistics at this point. It's happening. Like Las Vegas A's is a thing. Oakland is dead. Oakland will not have another franchise in it for
ever,
as long as we're alive.
Yeah, probably ever. I mean, after what's happened there, nobody's going to go there.
No.
And why would they? I mean, everybody's run out of town.
Yeah, and it's too bad. Like I feel bad for the Oakland fans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had 3 professional franchises in your city, and they're just all gone.
And good ones, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get it.
I mean,
I
you have
really
the
don't.
Warriors, the Raiders, and the A's who, all spent some time towards the top of the heap.
Yeah. So staying on the Oakland A's, if you guys followed us a lot last year, towards the middle of the season, I started doing a worst team in the league update. So obviously it's the Oakland A's right now. In order to beat the single season record I saw, they still have a chance at the single season win record if they go 117-0 or
Yep.
something. But anyways, currently they are 11-45. They lost 11 straight games before yesterday's win. They have a negative 199 run differential and have been swept in a series 8 times. 8 times.
Scary.
They've been swept. I don't know if regular teams even get swept 8 times in a season, let alone in the first 2 months. Like,
It's bad.
it's really bad. Like, it's not even like funny at this point. Like, I understand what the owner's doing. We've talked about this ad nauseum for the last few weeks. Like, I get it. He wants out, but you're already going to be out. Like, why can't you put a competitive team on the field at this
Yeah.
point?
Well, what's scary
Just
too?
start building it back up.
What's scary too with the A's is their farm system's ranked like 27th out of 30th too. So like they've got no young talent coming. Like
No.
they've done a pretty good job of purging that system of all talent. And honestly, most of it, for a while there, they had a very good farm system. They traded it all away, which I don't understand how you get to this point.
Yeah.
But
Just think of some of the names like lately that have rolled through there that aren't there anymore, right? Marcus Simeon, you got Josh Donaldson was there. I just the pitching prospects for a while there, even in the early to mid 2000s, where it was like Hudson and Mulder and Zito, like all those guys, they were there for what? Until they were free agents and then gone. Like they
Yeah.
just never signed anybody. Like
no, and then like as
crazy.
Billy Bean stepped farther away from the GM seat and he became the VP of baseball ops, and now he's more just like an advisor to them. As he sort of stepped away, that whole organization's lost its direction. I mean, Billy Bean spent 25 years running baseball ops for them, and they were very competitive for most of it. And then as he stepped away, it's fallen right off a cliff.
I mean, there's so many, man. Matt Chapman.
Oh yeah,
Marcus Simeon, Matt Olson,
Simeon, Chapman. I mean, you can go right down the list.
Cespedes,
Sean Murphy,
Sonny Gray.
Yep. Yeah, Sonny Gray,
Josh
Sean Murphy.
Reddick. It's just crazy.
They've consistently developed talent and then let it go.
Yep. But it will be interesting to see if the A's can flip it around in time to get to Vegas. Because it's what? We think 2.5, 3 years out. We're thinking 2026.
Yeah, they're talking 26
probably.
at the earliest. And the ballpark's not likely ready until 27.
So if I'm the owner now, I'm just like, all right, like as soon as it's a done deal, I want my GM to flip it and start being like, all right, let's start being competitive here, because you want a good team going into Vegas. You don't want one that's going 11-45.
No, and I have to imagine that Fisher is prepared to spend money to bring in talent, because he's going to have to. But at least now you need to go build out that minor league system. You got to start to develop some young talent. So you've got some guys ready to go. So you're not signing everybody as a free agent.
Absolutely.
But and then when does Bryce Harper's contract end?
I don't know, but I don't think it really matters, because even if it's not ready to end, they'll just trade him there. He was 13 and 330.
That's right. That's right. I forgot how long his is.
So
30, 20,
it won't surprise
20,
me
32
if
it
they
is. He's
trade him.
only going to be halfway through it.
Yeah, but he can just go to that front office and be like, "Yo, trade me.
Yeah,
get me over there. Send me home." But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Do you have anything else for tonight?
2 things real quick. One is the College World Series is kicking off. So if you want to see some good, fun, competitive college baseball, that's coming on. And then I wanted to mention, we saw the highlight or the video going around of the high school team. I want to say it was in Mass that lost the state championship on a dropped third strike where they didn't tag anybody and everybody just ran the bases and came around to win. I've never seen something so crazy in my life, that a drop third strike that the catcher failed to tag him and then empty the bases and lose on.
Dude, the batter ran all the way around the bases and scored the winning run on a drop third strike because they were celebrating.
Yeah, it was total confusion and chaos. They're celebrating. Somebody in the background's yelling, "There's only 2 outs. There's only 2 outs." Like somebody from the stands, I want to say, is yelling that. And then as the runner gets to about midway between like second and third, one of the players starts going, "Where's the ball? Where's the ball?" The catcher put it like in his back pocket, and he was in the pile somewhere. And so many rules were not enforced correctly there, and it shouldn't have ended the way that it ended. But still, like, it was mind blowing that it ended that way.
See, I think it played out how it should have. If you look at the clip, the catcher blocks the ball's in front of him. He actually like takes a couple steps towards the runner and looks, and the runner's like going up the first baseline, and then the catcher just goes and celebrates, and you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you still got to get him out, buddy.
Oh yeah, they didn't finish the play.
And it didn't finish the play,
and the umpires just kind of stood there like, we're going to let this play out because it's still a live ball,
right? And we've seen that before, where not quite the same thing, but a guy draws a bases loaded walk with 2 outs, but he doesn't go and touch first, so the winning run comes across. But he just kind of starts celebrating and gets off. The umpire calls him out. They go into extra innings and lose. Like, it's just, baseball's crazy.
It amazes me sometimes.
You got to get that last put out.
Yeah, man. It amazes me sometimes how these teams lose on that last play, and how nobody's like yelling to finish the play. Like, they're just all about going to celebrate. Like,
I mean, if you're a coach, you run out there, grab the ball, and tag the other guy yourself.
Well, if you're the coach, I'm not letting anybody run on the field till I see that umpire call that third out.
Right.
And I'm yelling at the catcher to make the throw or make the tag.
Crazy. Yeah, that was, I'm sure if you haven't seen it, you will.
It's crazy.
That would be the shittiest way to
It's awful, just horrendous.
I can't even.
I don't know how you sleep for a while after living through that.
I would probably quit baseball after that.
That's heartbreaking. And it's totally self-inflicted.
Yep, a mental mistake.
The worst part.
Right. That's the hardest thing about coaching is teaching players how to limit mental mistakes.
Yeah, physical errors happen. It's the mental mistakes that'll make you crazy.
Yeah, what is it? Yogi Berra says baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. Like, and it's so true. Like, you have to outthink your opponent a lot more than any physical things that you can teach.
And so much of it is just knowing what to do, like how to, where the play is going to go, how it's going to finish. And it's, everybody wants to celebrate before the last out is made, and you can't do that. It's like, dancing on the 1 yard line and fumbling. The old Leon Lett. The play's not over till it's over.
Right. Crazy. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well, next week we could have, I know I said we were going to have possibly an umpire on, Ryan Rand, this week. He had somebody come into town. They're actually at the Marlins Padres game tonight in Miami. But he did say he was going to join us next week. So hopefully he'll be on. We'll ask him a whole bunch of umpiring questions and all of that stuff. So that will be fun. Hopefully Sean will be back from Italy. If he still wants to join us, that is. But yeah, so we should have a fun show next week. I'm sure there's going to be tons of baseball going on this week as well. But yeah, please like, subscribe, share our podcast. Like I said, our reels are coming out. So if you guys like that and share it and help us out there, that would be greatly appreciated. And like I said at the beginning, like, we really appreciate your support and all this stuff. And it's been a ton of fun. So thanks again, and we will see you guys next Monday at 8.
Thanks for hanging with us.